Hi, everyone. It's Adam here from You Speak, and we are so excited to bring you another episode of the Speak Real podcast. We will be sharing one on one conversations with our youth speakers about their stories and lessons they have learned about their life experiences. We believe storytelling is the best way to empower youth and to give them a platform to use their voice. Today, I'm here with Asma and to talk about her journey and the struggles that she faced with mental health. So, how are you doing, Asma?
Doing great, Adam. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. Thanks for asking. So, before we get into introductions and all that sort of stuff, I just want to ask you one question, and that is, what's one word or one characteristic that you aim to be?
I aim to be self-sufficient.
I like that. Self-sufficient. I like that. Kind of like self strength. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you'd like to introduce yourself, let us know like how long you've been with You Speak, all that sort of stuff.
hmm Yeah, so I've been with Youth Speak for about 8 months now, and my journey with Youth Speak has been pretty awesome because I've learned to find my voice. I've learned to, um, you know, be able to put my story together because I have been through trauma and lost a lot of memories, and it really helped me with my therapy even to bring those memories back by writing my story down.
That's awesome. I'm happy that the process of like telling your story and speaking at schools has been an therapeutic experience for you. That's like a great that's a great pro for that. So the first thing I'd like to ask you is so throughout your journey, um, what was the biggest roadblock you found, or the biggest challenge you found was in your life?
Um, I guess it would be like I guess it would be losing my mom. That was the first sort of life took a 180 sort of experiences in my life. I had a few since then, but that was like the start of it. And I had underlying like loneliness and like struggles with anxiety and depression that I didn't know what that was at the time, but I did have those feelings. It didn't really become a huge thing in my life until then. So like I was still able to function because when I was younger, I didn't have any friends growing up. So that was a struggle. I would feel lonely at school and not be able to relate to anyone around me. And it put like a block in how I related to my own culture. I wasn't exposed to it even while, like, I grew up in Pakistan and I grew up disconnected from my own culture, my own language, because I was in such a contained environment, going to an English speaking school and just having that be my interaction with the world.
So did you kind of feel like almost like a dual identity, like kind of like you didn't feel like you fit in with your own culture and also fit in like with the culture that you were like raised in a way?
Yeah, it was that confusing, like double life sort of weird. Yeah, like I can't relate to my own culture too much, and I also it was harder to adapt here when I moved to Canada because it was still a huge culture shock. The whole environment's different. I'm able to walk outside for the first time by myself, so it's kind of like a whole new world. Which yeah, I guess identity issues have always been sort of a central thing for me.
It's interesting. That makes sense. Like I feel like a lot of people who come to Canada, they kind of like, especially at a young age, they kind of have that like dual kind of like identity crisis of like which culture you belong to because you're like in both. But yeah.
Mm.
hmm And so, how did the whole, so if you don't mind me asking, the whole like grief of losing your mother kind of affect you growing up? Like, you said you talked about like loneliness and sensitive identities, or like anything else that like resulted in that?
Um, yeah, so I think losing my mom was another sort of disconnect, because people talk about their moms a lot,
Hmm.
and I can never relate. So it's like, yeah, in terms of childhood, I can. When it comes to teens, or it's like, oh, people going like, sometimes you just need your mom, or I just called her and she helped me out with this thing, and I don't have that. So like since I was 14, I pretty much had to parent myself because my dad would work a lot. He has really crazy hours, and I wouldn't see him much. And then my school was really crazy hours. I would be there from 8 to 6, and then I'd have tutors until 10, and then I would have to study until 12. So I really didn't have that parental connection as much after mom passed. So I had to figure everything out myself. Tara had to figure out everything, how to I basically started my life here by myself, which that lack of support was really alienating because I couldn't relate to my peers on some pretty basic things, and then I was always playing catch up, like um, you know learning by observing, like how do people do even makeup, or how do people figure out how to budget or things like that. Like I had to do all of that myself, so yeah.
Yeah, like for as much as you said in the beginning that you aspire to be self-sufficient, I would say right now you're actually pretty self-sufficient, learning all that stuff about you, like how you pretty much raised yourself and like learned all these different things that weren't exactly intuitive to you. So that's definitely good. Um, and so going through all these experiences, like going through the experience of loneliness and grief, like I'd assume that it kind of led to some mental health issues. Did you want to speak on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, so definitely it was like that was the trigger point for me. I started having panic attacks after losing my mom, and I didn't know what they were until I moved to Canada, and it was literally like I think in university I heard people were walking by and someone said I had a panic attack, and then it would just click like, oh, that's what that is. I thought it was just a really bad cry, but crying isn't like that, right? So it was yeah, it all started then, and I would just keep it to myself. I kept everything inside. I didn't know how to tell anyone what was going on, but I got really good at always finding a safe space. So wherever I go, if I'm in university, professors were really understanding. Teachers were always really understanding. If I were to send them an email or something, or just leave the class, they were fine with that. If I was in, so whenever I enter a building, I note where the washrooms are in case anything were to happen. I know that I can feel it coming, so I know I have this much time to get to my safe place and I'm okay. But the panic attacks themselves, it was, yeah, that's when it started for me. And then, I mean, as years went on, I went through more trauma and had a whole journey trying to get diagnosed even because it was misdiagnosed you first when you're bipolar. So it took a few years to figure that out.
Yeah, like I know misdiagnosis can be like very, very common, especially like, well, especially with personality disorders, which I don't think bipolar is. But yeah, like misdiagnosis can happen a lot, which can kind of be like very, very discouraging for people because they just kind of want to know uh, what they have to do to like to get help. And so like how was that whole journey for you? Like journey with like when you did decide to, well, actually, first of all, like what led you to actually seek help with these sorts of mental health challenges that you were facing?
Hmm. Um, so I think it was a little bit of internal, like just learning about what it is. I remember going to the dentist office for like when I first came, I went for a checkup and they had like, check off any existing illnesses you have, and depression was on the list. And when I first saw that, I was like, wait, but isn't everyone depressed? And then I was like, oh, wait, it's an actual illness and I probably have it. So I should get checked out. And it took several tries. Like I reached out to counselors in university. And it's hard to find like that personality match for you. It's harder to find a psychiatrist even. So it took a lot of trying and trying and trying. And then eventually you do meet the right people that can connect you to support.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And like, I do definitely feel you on the whole, like, doesn't everybody think this way? Because like usually like even me when I was going through troubles, like, I thought the same, and like a lot of my friends who had gone through similar things thought the same of like, yeah, everybody thinks this way, but like then it's not until you kind of like trying to figure out like, wait a minute, like maybe there's something else here.
Yeah, and then you see people that are, I don't want to say happy, but like that's not the word. Just like people that don't have mental illness, like they do exist, and when you meet them, you're like, oh wow, this is what it's like. And then
So you have so much serotonin.
yeah, like where'd you get it? Give me some.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's good that you were able to find the help that you needed. And so like when you were like getting help, did you still feel like this loneliness, this feeling of loneliness inside, or like did it get a little bit better? How was that whole journey?
I definitely had moments of both. So, I went to a lot of short-term therapy. Some of them were really helpful. Some of them didn't match me. And I think group therapy, honestly, that was where I felt the most able to, because I have like fear of being vulnerable, and I mean now Youth Speaks really helped me with that. But
Mhm.
I used to like I would just never want to talk to a therapist, and I would always think like, okay, they might not know what I'm going through. They might not feel it. So how will I do it justice by just explaining it to them? Like I don't know if they'll get the whole picture, because often, you get that experience of maybe they're just applying the same thing to everybody. Maybe they're not adapting to me, and some do and some don't. But for me, I had those trust issues. Um, and then when I went to group therapy, I was really like, whatever, it's another one of these, just go to it, see what happens.
Mhm.
And what I noticed, it was actually like, it was a month or 2 months that we were going every day. And the people that were there, we were like all different ages, all different backgrounds, but we're going through a lot of the same things, a lot of the same feelings. And being around that circle, like I just, first it's all strangers. I'm like, how am I going to talk to strangers? And one person opens up, second person opens up, someone starts crying, another person starts hugging them. It really created that sense of, hey, we're all in this together, and it's okay to talk about it. And that's really what helped me feel like, I can find support, and there are people that get it.
Yeah, that is very, very powerful how it kind of gives you a sense of community, a sense of like, I'm not alone in this, even though, with a lot of stigma that mental health has, like it kind of it makes it so that you don't want to tell anybody, and it makes you feel like that nobody else is actually dealing with these problems. So definitely group therapy seems like a really good place to go to kind of like a little bit ease that stigma off of you.
Mm, absolutely.
And so I just want to ask, so if you were talking to somebody who was kind of feeling the same feelings that you were feeling back then, when you felt like you were at like your lowest point, uh, um, what sort of feelings? What would you say that to that person? What advice would you give to that person? Or you can even think about if you're giving advice to your previous self too, if that makes it easier.
Um, One of the things I struggled with when I was a kid was I never met someone that was like me, in the way I thought, or the way things that are impulsive to me. Like it would be like an instinct to, um, you know, support someone in a certain way, or, act a certain way. And I wouldn't see anyone like that. I would meet a lot of people that were similar to each other, and would just never meet someone like me. But I did eventually, through the years, I met so many people that are like me, think like I that understand what I have to say, that I can have those conversations with. And I think that I would tell myself that just, you have yourself until you find those people. You will find those people, but until then, always have yourself.
Mhm. It's almost like trying to be being your own best friend. You'll never really be lonely.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I love that. It's very beautiful. So the last question I'd like to ask you is, how has your experiences, all these things that you've gone through, affected you as a person today?
I think it's a bit of a cliche, but yeah, they definitely made me who I am today. I feel like I'm 100 years old. I feel like I have all these experiences and I have all this wisdom now that and so many tools to help myself. And I'm learning new tools every day, which it's just like I learned that you can never have too big of a toolbox. You just add as many things as you can in there. One of them's bound to work. The same thing's not going to work every time. That's why you have like that list of things you go through. So um, really, it's just helped me um, manage things in life a lot better. All my experiences taught me a lesson some way or the other. All my mistakes, they all taught me ways to improve self and learn new skills, whether it's an emotional resilience sort of thing, whether it's challenging my own thoughts, all of these things. And I'm really happy that I'm able to support people through it now, that people that are going the first time, maybe they never had support, and to help them out and be there for them.
Awesome. That's great. And like and you can just share all this like experience that you were able to gain through the things that you went through with other people. And I think that's like a great thing. Most
Thank
definitely.
you
Mhm.
much.
So I'm just going to wrap things up right now. And I just want to say thank you once again for joining us. And also, I wanted to say thank you to the audience, whoever's listening, for listening to another episode of the Speak Real podcast. Once again, if you'd like to hear more stories, you can just subscribe, comment, and like. Join us next time because we're always doing this every Thursday, same time, same place. And we would really love it if you help to support us. Thank you so much. And I'd also like to say thank you to TD Bank Group.